Israel has launched strikes on Iran's capital, targeting the country's nuclear program and killing top military officials and leading nuclear scientists. In response, Iran fired at least 100 drones towards Israel, according to the Israeli Defense Forces. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu called the strikes a targeted military operation aimed at rolling back what he described as the Iranian threat to Israel's very survival. He framed the assault as a preemptive strike, warning that Iran could produce a nuclear weapon in a very short time if not stopped.
When enemies vow to destroy you, believe them. When enemies build weapons of mass death, stop them. As the Bible teaches us, when someone comes to kill you, rise and act first. This is exactly what Israel has done today. We have risen like lions to defend ourselves.
The Israeli attacks hit several sites, including Iran's main nuclear enrichment facility. Iranian state media confirmed the deaths of General Hossein Salami, head of the Revolutionary Guard, and General Mohammad Bagheri, the Armed Forces Chief of Staff. At least 6 top nuclear scientists were also killed. Iran called the strikes a declaration of war, with its supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei vowing that Israel will face severe punishment. The Trump administration said it was not involved in the attack. It had earlier urged Israel to hold off while negotiations over Iran's nuclear program continued. Countries in the region condemned Israel's attack, while leaders around the globe called for immediate de-escalation from both sides.
After military attacks between Israel and Iran overnight, European leaders are voicing alarm and calling for immediate de-escalation. On the other hand, US President Donald Trump made further warnings and threats to Tehran to make the nuclear deal, saying that there is still time to end the slaughter before there is nothing left. Trump said his country makes the most lethal military equipment and that Israel has a lot of it, with much more to come. On Friday, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer urged all parties to step back, while his Dutch counterpart Dick Schoof said de-escalation is necessary. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz convened his security cabinet, warning of the threat posed by Iran's nuclear program and vowing to use diplomatic means. From Brussels, EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen called the news deeply alarming and urged maximum restraint. France, Finland and Ireland echoed calls to end the cycle of violence and return to diplomacy. Meanwhile, thousands of Iranians took the streets in the capital to protest the attacks, demanding revenge and chanting slogans against Israel and the United States. The crisis erupts just 2 days before G7 leaders meet in Canada, where it's now expected to top the agenda.
Israel's strike on Iran might change the balance of power in the Middle East, according to a security expert, Claude Moniquet.
Si les Israéliens vont assez loin, ce qui est en train de se passer est de nature à changer l'ensemble de la carte géopolitique au Moyen-Orient. Maintenant, on verra si ça se fait ou pas. L'idéal serait que ça permette à la population iranienne de se révolter et de se débarrasser de ce pouvoir qui lui a apporté que la dictature et le malheur depuis plus de 40 ans.
The conflict increased the security risk in Europe as well.
Ils feront savoir à leurs proxys et à leur population que c'est eux. C'est une possibilité qui est importante et ça veut dire que les communautés juives, les intérêts diplomatiques et commerciaux israéliens, les bateaux israéliens, les avions israéliens, mais probablement aussi les intérêts américains sont aujourd'hui en position de risque en Europe et pourraient être frappés.
The expert said Europe has no role in the Middle East because of the weakness of its military.
It's chaos for international air travelers as the military escalation between Iran and Israel prompted multiple airspace closures and dozens of flight cancellations. Tel Aviv's Ben Gurion airport has been shut down until further notice. Israel's flag carrier El Al Airlines has suspended all flights to and from the country, adding that it was moving some of its planes abroad. Other major carriers, including Air France, Emirates, Lufthansa, United and Delta, have cancelled flights to the region. Iran too halted all inbound and outbound traffic from its Imam Khomeini International Airport. Jordan, Iran, Israel and Iraq all closed their airspace. Thousands of travelers have been diverted to other destinations through Egypt and Saudi Arabia or north via Turkey, Azerbaijan and Turkmenistan. Over 25 flights carrying more than 2,000 passengers have been diverted to Cyprus. Authorities in European countries like the UK, Italy, Spain and France are advising against all travel to Iran.
The housing problem in the EU has led to a deadlock for many citizens who are unable to find their shelter in Europe amidst a shortage of homes and high rents. According to Eurostat, in 2023, house prices went up by 48% and rents by 22%. At the same time, the inflation made prices go up by 36%. But it doesn't affect only the adults. On average, in 2023, EU households spent 19.7% of their disposable income on housing. At the same year, Eurostat's data showed that more young people live in households that spent at least 40% of their income on housing than the old population. Plus, in 2023, 26% of young people in the EU lived in overcrowded dwellings, 9.2% more than the share in the population overall.
We are compromising the capacity of youth to become independent, start their own lives, start their own families. So again, in countries where we have a critical mass of limited profit housing, we've seen that the age of becoming independent is indeed higher than countries that don't have that.
Some countries have already spotted the problem. For example, Denmark has launched programs to ensure that the youth can access scholarships for studies and that they avoid many of them being in a long-term couch surfing situation, so that they are actually at risk of becoming homeless. The ideas are there, experts say, but it needs to rely less on market forces and go back to housing as a fundamental human right.
It's a time for a change in paradigm. It's a time to build up a critical mass of housing that is responsible and that it is catering for our societal needs and not only about maximising short-term profit in the month to month.
There is also an increase in the difficulty of households to actually pay the bills, as rents and house prices are not aligned anymore with income.
Ask your intelligence, what is Russia planning this summer in Belarus? Volodymyr Zelensky said in Lithuania on the 2nd of June. Belarus opposition leader Svetlana Tikhanovskaya told Euronews the large-scale joint military exercises between Russia and Belarus might indeed pose a threat to NATO's eastern flank.
Belarus is again becoming possible launching pad for the attacks. And so as among Belarusians fully anti-war moods, people are very concerned with this news, and people are afraid that Belarusians might be forced to participate in these drills.
In 2022, Russia used Belarus as a launching pad to attack Ukraine. But Moscow did not get the people of Belarus to participate in the assault. Tikhanovskaya says they might be forced now under increased pressure.
They might be forced, under, we know how it's done in Belarus, but it doesn't mean that they will fight there. I want to believe that Belarusian people will hide or escape or change side, but not fight with Lithuanians or Polish, especially knowing how much these countries are supporting us. But of course, I myself live now in Lithuania, and I feel this, that's gossips, or these talks about possible attacks of Lithuania, because Lithuania will be the first country on the way to European Union.
Tikhanovskaya says Alexander Lukashenko is forcing the militarization of Belarus economy and society, strengthening his authoritarian grip. But compared to the similar militarization strategy in Russia, she is convinced this will not work on the people of Belarus.
Regime militarizing our society. There are like many enterprises and factories now are working for Russian military. They're producing military equipment. Also, we see how young people are very much involved into this militarization in schools, in universities. They hold these subjects on militarization. So they want to show we have external enemies. Somebody wants to invade us. This like preparing maybe nation, for some possible consequences,
A federal appeals court in the U.S. late on Thursday paused a ruling that required President Donald Trump to return control of members of California's National Guard to the state. The Ninth U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals ruling came only hours after a federal judge's order was to take effect at noon on Friday, and the appeals court said it would hold a hearing on the matter next Tuesday. Earlier Thursday, a U.S. district judge ruled the Guard's deployment as illegal and both violated the 10th Amendment. California Governor Gavin Newsom would asked the judge for an emergency stop to troops helping carry out immigration raids in his state, had praised the earlier ruling. The White House called the judge's order unprecedented. The legal showdown between the U.S. federal government and California comes as protests over immigration raids in Los Angeles intensified after Trump called up the Guard. The protests have since spread to other cities, including Boston, Chicago, and Seattle.